So in terms of like NVIDIA's stock price going down 600 billion. So just to give context, NVIDIA does about $60 billion of revenue. It must have crossed like 100 billion this year. And the net worth of the company is 50x of the revenue. So usually in technology companies, for example, Twitter used to do about $2.5 billion of revenue and was worth 25 billion to 40 billion, right? It's usually 10x of revenue or usually 20 times earnings or 10x of revenue. It's like usual norm for technology companies with high growth potential. So usual companies which are let's say companies which do not have high growth potential, it's usually 2x revenue. For example, Ford, it's like they do 50 billion and the company is not even worth 50 billion. So given that to be the case, that gives you a general sense as to how companies are valued. NVIDIA, which has sort of a monopoly in making these graphical processing units, which are different from CPUs, and they get components from 35,000 different vendors, as a result of which they are a monopoly in this space. So their company was valued at around 3.4 billion and it dropped 600 billion in one day with the news that DeepSeek has essentially executed a model which has reached the top of let's say the App Store charts within a week of its release. And the big news is they've only spent about $5 to $6 million to execute the whole thing. Nobody can confirm that to be true, but that is the reason people were taken aback as to why NVIDIA, the people were reevaluating the fact that the pricing power that NVIDIA has is not really what's the paper on which it is written on. So that's why there is a lot of negative reaction on the aftermath of DeepSeek. What do you guys think based on what you understand?
I I believe why there is such a huge, let's say, a drop in value is because unlike nowadays, anyone can buy a stock, right? You don't have to have a specialized account or like a trading account. So like common people really do buy a lot of these stocks. So I believe that that's one of the reasons. Because when this news came out, a lot of people, you know, went through the hype and just started dropping shares. And as a result, the company lost 600 billion. That's
Abhishek,
my
you
take.
have something you wanna? What do you think of it? Because I would the people want people in your cohort to understand uh, what to make of it. So, what would you tell your friends as to what happened in NVIDIA?
So the basis of the commotion I feel is that all the big tech companies who are in the forefront of this AI revolution that is happening, like Meta's Mark Zuckerberg just announced that they are going to be investing $65 billion this year for advancing in the AI technologies. And then there's also OpenAI with Oracle and SoftBank who are backed by the White House with a whooping $500 billion year back
$100 billion investment.
investment. Yes, so these are really huge numbers, and they say that the only thing that is stopping AI revolution right now from going forward is money and time. And here comes China with DeepSeek R1 with minimal resources, both in time, just 2-3 years in their and like 2-3 years in their advancement, and with as allegedly like $6 million worth of investment, and they are already advancing than the present competitors that are there in the field. Also, I heard somebody from Meta saying that DeepSeek AI is more advanced than the current model of Llama. Also, the next model which they are going to be announcing soon. So that has caused a really huge commotion in the field. And I feel people really wanted a very big, what do you say, page turner in this entire paradigm, because it was always OpenAI and Facebook. So having a new challenger in the field is getting their hypes really, and like it's hyping them up.
Yeah, so in terms of, let's say, how experts think about it, like even though both of your points are valid, that there is a sense of optimism in terms of AI, and a lot of people are putting a lot of money to work. So when they see, so the thing that you have to remember, the central gist of the entire conversation that underpins the events of yesterday is that OpenAI accomplished what it accomplished, but on the backs of $20 billion of investment over a course of 5 to 10 years. And DeepSeek did that in 2 years with, let they say 5 million. It's probably like 100 million, like 10 times of that, 10 to 20 times of that, because even by their own disclosure, they say 5 million is the cost of this run. And it doesn't take into account 200 employees, which are listed as part of DeepSeek, the employee salary for the last 2 years. That is not taken into account. The researchers who are researching on this topic, who have lent their time and effort, it doesn't take that into account. So just this compute time is 5 million, which is astonishingly low compared to the usual compute time. So that is what, rippled the entire markets. So, but I don't think it's that big of a. I think it's a big deal. I was having this conversation with somebody else, and I said, this is not a big deal because the paper on which DeepSeek has written its own paper is based on an OpenAI scientist, John Schulman. John Schulman's RL model is still, one of the work that he did as part of the OpenAI team is still a pioneering work, and the DeepSeek acknowledges that. But having said that, you can say the same analogy with Google and OpenAI, right? So Google people invented attention mechanism. They wrote the paper. Just because they wrote the paper doesn't mean they got the market. OpenAI captured the market, even though they implemented it better. So it might so be the case that DeepSeek did not invent all this technology, but they just executed in a manner in which they got distribution immediately, right? So OpenAI did to Google what DeepSeek is doing to OpenAI. Whether they'll execute, that is totally dependent. And Google also has, I think, not so good competent C, let's say not so competent CEO. So the only difference here is, Sam Altman is a very, uh, he was head of Y Combinator, so he's a very shrewd player, so to speak, as opposed to Sundar Pichai, who doesn't have any startup experience, never has founded any companies. So his reaction, that might be the difference between how OpenAI reacts to DeepSeek as opposed to how Google reacted to OpenAI. So this is still an opening gambit. So there's a long way to go, and we don't know for certain as to who's the clear victor at this point. But based on the in market capitalization is totally dependent on the valuation of the company, and the valuation of the company is dependent on the pricing power of the company, and pricing power depends on the competitive advantage you have against your competitors, and that comes from distribution, a number of customers you have. And DeepSeek has done all the right things. In 1 week, they are on top of Play Store. They are able to capture people's imagination, and people are downloading and playing with it. Whether they will retain all these users, and all these users end up paying for them over a course of next 1 year, that needs to be seen. And the fact that they're a Chinese company and there are a lot of data issues related to that, I think Andrew Ng had a great tweet yesterday. If you can open Andrew Ng's tweet, he basically said the fact that the fact that all the action is in the application layer, and the DeepSeek has essentially shown the fact that the competition at the language model level is so intense to a point, the safe bet is only in the application layer. He says that today's DeepSeek sell-off is, and this tweet was viewed by close to 500,000 people. So today's DeepSeek sell-off in the stock market attributed to DeepSeek V3 disrupting the tech ecosystem is another sign that application layer is the great place to be. The foundation model layer being hyper competitive is great for people building applications. So basically, what he's saying is, don't take the risk of building language models. Let some big players do the language models. You focus on your customers and make sure you keep the customers happy. As a result, Perplexity today has remained totally unchanged. I mean, if R1 model came along, all they did was plugged in R1 model into their user interface, and they're good to go. So they're not affected regardless of who the end customer is. So I think this is still a long way to go, but this is a good wake up call, which basically says like, if you can assemble a team of 200 people, they can probably beat OpenAI. And OpenAI is like 1,000 people, so it's not that big a deal. Any
So
other thought?
does the size of the company like enable them to make decisions faster and have like rapid uh, development and deployment of these models, or how does that work?
I think I mean I won't consider myself an expert to give edicts on these kinds of issues. The size of the company and the culture helps. The smaller the size of the company, faster will be the decision making. Or let's say the more horizontal the company, faster will be the decision making, provided the leader of the company can facilitate that diffusion of decision making. So, Google is a very vertical, hierarchical company led by an MBA. So that's the real issue here. I mean, Google's incompetence versus OpenAI's competence, and OpenAI might turn out that they are just as incompetent as Google. So we'll see. But hopefully they won't be, because I don't think, if you look at Sam Altman's tweet on the same issue, he said like, yeah, they've done a great job, but don't count us out. We'll just do as good a job as we did previously.